headlines of this hour on VTV News. Positive signals seen in 2-month socio-economic development. And later on, FDI enterprises support Vietnam's growth target. In our world news, China sets 5% economic growth target for 2025.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trân with the top stories. Prime Minister Phie chaired the regular government meeting on Wednesday, which focused on evaluating socio-economic performance in February and the first 2 months of this year. More details to follow.
Opening the meeting, the Prime Minister highlighted that the country enjoyed socio-economic progress across all fields so far this year compared to the same period last year. The macroeconomic landscape has remained stable, with inflation under control and key economic balances secured, he noted, adding that growth has been spurred, with positive signals emerging across agriculture, industry, and services. The cultural and social sectors have also received increased focus, while political and social stability, national security, and defense have been maintained and strengthened. Additionally, foreign relations have been expanded and deepened. The government leader urged participants to propose management and direction solutions to achieve at least 8% growth in 2025, contributing significantly to the successful implementation of the 2021 to 2025 Socio-Economic Development Plan.
The State Bank of Vietnam is tasked to actively and flexibly manage monetary policy, including potential adjustments to interest rates using tools such as the rediscount rate, refinancing rate, open market operations, and targeted lending rates. Fiscal policy must be more targeted and effective with a focus on accelerating public investment, optimizing tax and fee exemptions, and revising government bond issuance plans to finance key infrastructure projects.
He also requested the authorities to prevent power shortages that could disrupt production, business, and daily life. The Prime Minister also requested participants to prepare for an upcoming government meeting on global challenges affecting Vietnam, including measures to enhance trade balance with the U.S. The Prime Minister stressed that ministries and agencies must act swiftly and decisively to implement these priorities, ensuring Vietnam continues on a path of strong and sustainable growth.
Prime Minister Phie welcomed Lao Deputy Minister of National Defense, Lieutenant General SOCIO-ECONOMIC on Wednesday. And at the meeting, the Vietnamese leader reaffirmed the deep Vietnam-Laos friendship and the significance of their defense ties. He commended ongoing military cooperation and called for stronger coordination in security matters, urging both sides to implement agreements with Cambodia and enhance defense capabilities. He also stressed the need for border stability, crime prevention, and sustainable development. Lieutenant General Komasev reported a successful meeting between the two general staffs, with both sides committed to deepening cooperation and also implementing agreements to strengthen the enduring Vietnam-Laos relationship. Minister of National Defense General Phan Van Giang presided over the announcement of the merger and reorganization of agencies under the Ministry of National Defense, the General Staff, and the General Department of Politics of the Vietnam People's Army on Wednesday. He affirmed that the Army's structure has been streamlined, compact, and strong ahead of schedule. He urged the military to stabilize its organization, align operations with assigned functions, and successfully conduct party congresses at all levels. This restructuring reflects new strategic thinking, enhancing national defense. Vietnam recorded a total registered FDI capital of $6.9 billion in the first 2 months of this year, and this was a 35.5% increase year on year. With this result, the country continues solidifying its position as a key player in the global supply chain. Foreign enterprises have reaffirmed their commitment to supporting Vietnam's ambitious growth target of at least 8%. More on this in the following.
This company has operated in Vietnam for 7 years and produces components and assembles high-displacement vehicles. It is scaling up operations while prioritizing partnerships with domestic businesses to reinforce supply chains.
The more and the stronger free trade, the stronger the incentive is to continue to invest. That is oftentimes one of the bigger levers in an operations decision.
FDI inflows have surged, with additional registered capital from existing investors reaching nearly $4.2 billion. This is a staggering 7.4 times increase from the same period last year. This underscores the long-term commitment of foreign investors to Vietnam's economy.
Vietnam will further support the green transition. And as mentioned by several speakers, Vietnam has a huge potential to become one of the leading green manufacturing locations in Southeast Asia.
FDI is not just about capital injection. FDI can help boost productivity and long-term economic growth. Local authorities must streamline administrative procedures and ensure a transparent and fair business environment to maximize these benefits.
As we work toward making the province a centrally governed city, we are implementing various measures to attract foreign investors. This includes policy reforms to reduce investment timelines and resolutions and training high-quality workforce training.
They tie in very well with our final conclusions based on the survey conducted with our members and part of the conclusions of the White Book. It's not an easy task, it's an ambitious goal, and I believe it will require some doing.
Policies on science and technology, digital transformation, infrastructure development, and financial hubs will give Vietnam a competitive edge in attracting FDI over regional competitors. By capitalizing on these advantages, Vietnam is well positioned to strengthen its global investment appeal and achieve its ambitious growth targets.
While global rice supply is abundant, import demand remains low with no signs of recovery. And as Vietnam enters the winter-spring harvest with nearly 6 million tons of fresh rice, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh urges comprehensive measures to stabilize the market and also secure farmers' income.
India has resumed rice exports, with supply up 10 to 15% year-on-year. Meanwhile, the Philippines, Vietnam's top buyer, plans to release large rice reserves. Vietnam must boost storage capacity to withstand price drops in the next 2 months.
Sustainable export requires integration into the supply chain and a robust warehouse system. Pure trading alone is not viable.
The Ministry of Industry and Trade will set up an inspection team to activate storage and reserves to ensure stability. Moreover, we are currently negotiating with new markets.
The rice industry is targeting Africa, South America, and the Middle East, focusing on fragrant and high-quality rice for premium markets less sensitive to price fluctuations. In the long run, deep processing will provide a sustainable solution.
We have been researching rice noodles, especially rice cakes, and are now cooperating with Japan to make rice bran oil products.
With over 7 million hectares of rice cultivation, Vietnam expects to produce more than 43 million tons of paddy rice for domestic consumption and export in 2025. Proactive local rice monitoring, in coordination with ministries and sectors, will be crucial for export success.
The Department of Agriculture website updates market prices regularly. Farmers should stay informed to plan production effectively.
The Prime Minister urged provinces to expand the 1 million hectare high-quality, low-emission rice project. 11 Mekong Delta banks will prioritize funding for top-performing farmers and businesses.
Global trade remains unpredictable, particularly in the U.S. market, and the Ministry of Industry and Trade has introduced several measures to achieve its export growth target of 12% this year, including strategies to navigate tariff fluctuations. In the first 2 months of the year, Vietnam's export revenue reached $65.2 billion, up nearly 10% year-on-year, with a trade surplus of $2.3 billion.
Despite contributing $9.1 billion to Vietnam's 2024 export revenue, the timber industry is facing challenges as the U.S., its key market, reviews and warns of potential countervailing duties on Vietnamese plywood.
We must be prepared to answer inquiries if required by U.S. authorities. Meanwhile, we have been expanding exports to Australia, New Zealand, and the Middle East.
According to the Ministry of Industry and Trade, to meet the 2024 export target of $454 billion, Vietnam must achieve an average of $37.8 billion in exports per month. This requires coordination between government agencies, businesses, and Vietnam's trade missions abroad.
Market conditions are shifting rapidly, sometimes on a daily basis. Businesses should capitalize on next-generation free trade agreements, FTAs, and study upcoming agreements that Vietnam plans to sign.
The ministry also plans to streamline administrative procedures, reduce processing times, digitize export documentation, and collaborate with relevant authorities to ensure safe and efficient customs clearance for businesses.
Coming up next in our world news. This is another domestic news. Vietnam waives public school tuition as investment in future. And later on, Hanoi preserves heritage by promoting tourism. Welcome back to VTV News. Now, starting in the upcoming academic year, the Politburo has decided to waive all tuition fees for students nationwide, from kindergarten to high school in the public school system. And this move demonstrates Vietnam's strong efforts to comprehensively and fundamentally reform education and training. Its goal is to ensure the universalization of education, aiming to meet the nation's requirement for high-quality human resources.
Ho Chi Minh City is one of 10 localities that will waive student tuition fees at every level of education. The city has implemented the exemption policy for the past 7 years. However, it was applied differently to various groups each year.
The city saves over 100 billion VND annually, and as that accumulates, it becomes a significant overall amount. The city allocates those savings to support education.
Ho Chi Minh City applies this policy to public and private school students, excluding schools with foreign investment. Accordingly, the tuition fee support for private school students is equivalent to that of public schools. Schools collect tuition fees in advance and refund students when they receive their allocated budget.
We will provide timely tuition assistance for students at all levels. Students who transfer schools also benefit from this policy.
We can save from other unnecessary expenses by taking care of children for the future of our country.
10 provinces and cities have issued policies to waive preschool and general education tuition fees in this 2024 to 2025 academic year. As the exemption policy applies next academic year, localities need to continue improving the quality of education and develop more elementary schools. The goal is to ensure children with disabilities and those in disadvantaged areas receive full support.
UNICEF warmly congratulates Vietnam on this achievement, which aligns with its international commitments, enabling more children to complete a full education cycle, irrespective of their socioeconomic background. It's a key policy during this era of transformative national growth.
Waiving tuition fees for students at all education levels helps ensure fair educational access and shares the financial burden for families. Additionally,
The policy is the responsibility of each locality to support the lifelong journey of education.
Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City and other major cities must take decisive action to address their air pollution problems. Many measures have been proposed, including developing green transport, implementing low-emission zones, and strengthening monitoring systems. The crucial factor is implementing these solutions, both short-term and long-term, with determination and commitment.
Recent studies have shown that traffic is an alarming source of pollution in Hanoi. The capital city has developed a resolution establishing low-emission zones that would take effect from the beginning of this year. However, to implement it, some measures require approval from higher authorities.
We do not have emission standards for motorbikes yet. In the case of establishing low-emission zones, we must control the emissions of cars and motorbikes separately.
The current standards for car and motorbike emissions are not strict enough and need to be reviewed and revised. Currently, the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment is developing new standards for car emissions. These standards have been submitted to the Ministry of Science and Technology for appraisal, and we are also reporting to the government.
Despite identifying specific solutions to address pollution sources, no action has been taken. Until these issues are fully resolved, the hazy conditions will persist.
Propose setting up a high-level committee comprised of government officials, ministry representatives, and local authorities to discuss specific appropriate measures to solve this issue.
For effective long-term solutions, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City need to immediately complete their emissions inventory and strengthen their pollution monitoring equipment. Hanoi's monitoring capacity has declined from 35 stations in 2020 to only 7 stations currently providing data. Ho Chi Minh City has had no monitoring data since August last year, as its equipment remains tied up in the bidding process.
VNPT has been clocked as having the fastest internet speeds in Vietnam, topping the speed stakes for December and January, according to Vietnam's iSpeed internet speed measurement platform. And with download speeds of over 181 Mbps and uploads at 137 Mbps, VNPT's continuous infrastructure upgrades and policy changes have tripled internet speeds, supporting online learning, virtual meetings, and high-quality entertainment nationwide. This achievement also contributes to the realization of Politburo's Resolution 57 on developing cutting-edge digital infrastructure. Nikkei Asia has highlighted Hanoi's vibrant charm in an article entitled "Footloose in Hanoi: Celebrate City's Charm, Street Food, and Relics from Past." The article vividly captures Hanoi's allure, from its bustling old quarter and renowned street food to its unique coffee culture, rich history, and dynamic youth. Vietnamese cuisine is an indispensable aspect of Hanoi. It features dishes like pho, crispy stuffed rice pancakes, turmeric grilled catfish, grilled pork with vermicelli, bánh mì, and sticky rice cake with mugwort. The article praises the balance of sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and spicy flavors in Vietnamese cuisine. Hanoi also stands as a historical and cultural destination with remnants of Vietnam's tumultuous past, which is still evident, such as the Hỏa Lò Prison Museum and Khâm Thiên Street. On Tuesday, at the Hai Ba Trung Temple, Pagoda, and Communal House, Hanoi officially launched a series of events promoting its 2025 Sacred Marks tourism campaign. By recognizing historical sites as tourist attractions, the capital is creating new travel experiences and ensuring the preservation of its heritage.
The Hai Ba Trung Temple complex remains a symbol of cultural, historical, architectural, and religious significance. The recognition of the Hai Ba Cheong Festival as a national intangible cultural heritage and the designation of Relic Cluster as a tourist destination instill a sense of pride while also placing a responsibility on the local community.
Our duty is to protect and preserve this heritage. It is not only to educate future generations about traditions, but also to welcome visitors and help them understand Vietnamese culture.
By incorporating the preservation of heritage sites into tourism, Hanoi continues to assert its position as Vietnam's leading cultural and historical tourism hub.
Given the unique value of Hanoi's relics and heritage, we have combined preservation and tourism under one roof. This can bring new experiences and attract more tourists to the capital city.
Apart from promotion, immersive experiences are a key factor in attracting tourists. The fusion of historical storytelling with modern technology is breathing new life into heritage sites, making them more engaging for both domestic and international visitors. The recent amendment to the law on the capital has further facilitated tourism growth by allowing more innovative cultural initiatives.
The revised legislation provides opportunities for us to develop creative activities at heritage sites, adding value and enhancing visitor experiences.
By leveraging each relic's unique historical and cultural significance, Hanoi aims to introduce a diverse range of tourism products, helping the city reach its ambitious target of welcome 31 million visitors in 2025.
Now, following the success of the Call Me by Fire reality program, the producer has unveiled Show It All, a reality series dedicated to discovering and training young music groups and international models to global standards. This show aims to further elevate its status by offering structured training led by renowned artists such as Tóc Tiên, K-Chen, and Subin. 30 selected rookies will undergo intensive coaching, positioning the show as a pioneer in shaping the next generation of performers. Show It All is set to premiere on Vietnam television VTV3 this September. Coming up next in our world news, China sets 5% economic growth target for 2025. And U.S. President defends tariff policy before the Congress. Moving on to our world news, China has retained its 5% GDP growth target this year in response to a complicated world context. The Chinese government announced this target at the National People's Congress opening on Wednesday morning in Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Qiang said the government plans to target a survey urban unemployment rate of around 5.5%, the creation of over 12 million urban jobs, and an increase in the consumer price index of around 2%. To achieve GDP growth of approximately 5%, China aims to reduce the budget deficit to 4%, up from 3% last year, and to increase public investment sharply. The country will cut reserve requirements, reduce interest rates appropriately, and unleash more stimulus measures to bolster the economy. China will also promote growth spearheads such as artificial intelligence, robotics, semiconductors, and quantum technology. The country maintains its defense budget at a high level, nearly $250 billion, an increase of 7.2%. U.S. President Donald Trump delivered his address to a joint session of Congress on Tuesday, focusing on domestic issues. And these issues profoundly changed the country's economic, political, and social situation and strongly impact world trade.
Domestically, President Trump asserted that America is back. The U.S. economy is thriving, bank interest rates are falling significantly, and the inflation nightmare will soon be resolved.
Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families.
Concerning energy security, President Trump praised the right decision to declare a national energy emergency to increase fossil fuel exploitation. Regarding foreign affairs, the U.S. president highly appreciated the U.S. withdrawal from international agreements and organizations. He also emphasized that the tariff program with partners will make America rich again. Admitting that there may be a little turmoil and a period of adjustment, Trump said that his tax policies would eventually bring in trillions of dollars, forcing companies to bring production lines to the U.S., thereby opening up many opportunities and jobs. Regarding the conflict in Ukraine, Trump said he is working tirelessly to end this conflict.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, "Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you." I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace.
Lasting 100 minutes, this was the longest speech ever by a U.S. president to Congress.
Meanwhile, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said on Tuesday that President Donald Trump would reach a middle ground with Mexico and Canada on tariffs. In particular, the U.S. may make some concessions, but will not completely withdraw tariffs. And as of Tuesday, Canada immediately imposed a 25% retaliatory tariff on $30 billion worth of imported goods from the U.S. and is expected to expand it to $125 billion within the next 3 weeks. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced that she will seek new markets and apply tariff and non-tariff measures on U.S. goods. More than 70% of softwood and gypsum imported into the U.S. come from Canada and Mexico. Mexico also supplies 63% of vegetables and nearly half of the fruit imported into the U.S. Some northeastern areas of Thailand are facing earlier than expected drought, forcing the authorities to take extensive countermeasures. In Nakhon Ratchasima province, water levels in many reservoirs have dropped to low levels. The provincial governor has set 4 key priorities: ensuring drinking water and tap water supply, managing agricultural water use, maintaining ecological balance in waterways, and allocating water for industrial needs. Meanwhile, Buriram province is also facing a serious water shortage, with Sakhe Phrong district having to use trucks to distribute water every day. Local authorities are working to expand water supply works and find more water sources. And as usual, let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.